Hello everyone and welcome to this video on the Python programming language. So Tesla just had its earnings call earlier this week. So in this video I want to see how Twitter users feel about Tesla's earnings by getting Twitter user sentiment on that topic using Python. Now I'm currently on Google's website. It's called colab.research.google.com and I'm on it because it makes it really easy to start programming in Python. So all you have to do is go to this website and log in using your Google account and get started writing your Python code. So if you're going to code along with me, go ahead and click on File, then click on New Notebook, where a new tab will open up for you, and then eventually a new cell. Now I already have a tab open for me, and I named it Tesla Earnings Twitter Sentiment Analysis, and this is where I will be writing the code. So before we begin, if you like the videos on this channel, then be sure to click that subscribe and like button, and to be notified about new videos from this channel, hit that bell notification. Also, you can get the code in this video or just support the channel through Patreon at patreon.com/computerscience. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do is put in a description and comments about the program. Okay, so I'm just going to type here, this code gets the sentiment. And by sentiment, I mean how positive or negative or neutral someone feels about a particular subject, or people feel about a particular subject. All right, and we're going to get this information from Twitter users. Okay, and it's going to be about Tesla's earnings. Okay, so let me just read this, make sure it makes sense. This code gets the sentiment from Twitter users about Tesla earnings. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new cell by clicking that code button in the top left. And now in this cell, I'm going to import the libraries that I plan on using throughout the program. So I'm going to import TweePy, and I'm going to import, let's go with pandas as PD. I'm going to import numpy as MP. I'm going to import RE, regular expressions. I'm going to import matplot lib.pyplot as PLT, and I want to use text blob, so pyplot, there we go, and I want to use text blob, so from text blob I'm going to import text blob. Okay, and I want to give my plot a style, so I'm just going to type plt.style.use, and I'm going to use the 538 style, and then I'm going to run this cell by clicking this button here to the left, and this will let me know if I made any mistakes. It looks like I'm good. Let's go ahead and create a new cell. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to store the login data to the Twitter API, which I already have loaded here. So I'm just going to store it in a variable. Let's call the variable df, which will be short for dataframe. I'm going to set this equal to pd.read underscore csv, and the name of the file is login.csv. Okay, and then I want to get the Twitter API credentials. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called consumer key. I'm going to set this equal to df consumer key at position 0, and then I'm going to create a variable called consumer secret and set this equal to df consumer secret at position 0, and access token, I'm going to set this equal to df access token at position 0, and access token secret, I'm going to set this equal to df access token secret at position 0. So let's go ahead and run this cell and see if we have any mistakes. Nope, everything looks good. I'm going to create a new cell, and now I'm going to create the authentication object. Alright, so let's create a variable called authenticate and set this equal to tweepy dot oauth handler, and we're going to input consumer key, and we're going to put consumer secret. Alright, next I'm going to set the access token and access token secret. Alright, so I'm going to create or actually I don't need to create a variable, I just need to use the method called set access token. So I'm going to type authenticate dot set underscore access underscore token, and I'm going to input access token and access token secret. Okay. All right, so next I'm going to create the API object. So I'm going to create a variable called API and set this equal to tweepy dot API, and then I'm going to input authenticate, and I'm just going to put here wait on rate limit. I'm going to set this equal to true. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so everything looks good there. I'm going to create a new cell. Alrighty, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather some tweets. So let's gather, let's say 1,500 tweets about Tesla earnings. All right, so first I'm going to create a search query or a search term. So I'm going to create a variable called search underscore term. I'm going to set this equal to Tesla earnings. Okay, and then I'm going to create the cursor object. All right, so I'm going to create a variable called tweets, and I'm going to set this equal to tweepy dot cursor. All right, and then I'm going to input API dot search. So we're inputting the search API, and I need to put a comma here. All right, next let's put in the query. So I'm going to set q equal to search underscore term. So that's the input, the search, the term, and then I want the language to be English, so I'm going to put en here for English, and I want data since, let's go with 2022, we'll go with 03 for March, and then 27, so March 27th 2022. All right, and then I'm going to set tweet mode equal to extended, and I think that looks good, and then put dot items, and I want 1,500 tweets, so I'm going to put 1,500 here, and I think that looks good. So let's go ahead and continue. So next I want to store the tweets in a variable. So I'm going to create a variable called all underscore tweets. I'm going to set this equal to tweet dot full text, or full underscore text for tweet and tweets. Okay, so that should give us all of the tweets. Let's go ahead and show all of the tweets. So I'm just going to type all underscore tweets here, and let's run this cell. And this may take some time, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and then when it's done I'm going to unpause it just to make it a little bit quicker for you all. Okay, so now that's all done, let's take a look at these tweets. So I'm just going to bring this on up. All right, so we can see we have these tweets here. We can see some duplicate rows. We can also see some at mentions. We can see RT here. So I will need to clean up this data a little bit, right? So let's go ahead and create a new cell. And now in this cell, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a data frame to store the tweets. And this will allow me to clean the data a little bit easier by transforming the data to a data frame. So I'm going to set df equal to, let me just bring this down a little bit, df to pd dot data frame, and then we're going to put in all tweets, and the columns will be equal to tweets. All right, so we're going to have that tweets column, and then I'm going to show the first 6 rows of data. So I'm just going to type df dot head and input the number value 6. So let's go ahead and run that, so we just see the first 6 rows of data. All right, so that looks good. Now let's start our data cleaning process. So I'm going to create a function to clean the tweets. All right, so let's call this function clean tweet. All right, and it's going to take in some tweet twt. All right, so I'm going to set tweet equal to re dot sub, and here I'm just going to remove rt from the tweets. So here I'm just going to put remove rt from the tweets, and we're going to use regular expressions for this. So I'm just going to put rt here, and then I'm going to replace it with the empty string. So actually I'm not using the regular expressions here, but I will for cleaning some of this data. So here I'm just replacing anything that has rt, any string that's rt, I'm replacing it with an empty string. All right, so that's all I'm doing here. Let's set tweet equal to re dot sub, and here I will use regular expressions to remove the hashtag or number sign from the tweets. Okay, so I'm just going to type here hashtag and then the left square bracket A to Z capitals, and then or capital, and then A to Z lowercase, and then 0 to 9. Okay, and then the right square bracket and then a plus sign. Okay, and we're going to replace that with an empty string, and of course add in our tweet. All right, next set tweet equal to re dot sub. Here I'm going to remove the backslash n character. So I'm going to put backslash in here, and we're going to use regular expressions for this. So that's backslash n. We're going to replace that with an empty string, and we're going to input our tweet here. Okay, and also I'm going to put character here. All right, so next I'm going to set tweet equal to re dot sub, and I want to remove the hyperlinks in the data. So I'm going to use a regular expression for this as well. So hyperlinks start with HTTPS, right? Or it could be HTTP. So we're going to put a question mark here. And then let's see, colon, and then backslash, forward slash, backslash, forward slash, and then backslash capital S plus, and I'm going to replace that with an empty string. And then of course, input tweet. All right, and I'm going to set tweet equal to re dot sub, and here let's go ahead and remove the at mentions. All right, so that's anything that starts with that at sign, and I'm going to put the left square brackets and then backslash capital S, and then the right square brackets and then a star here. All right, and I'm going to replace it with an empty string and then input our tweet. All right, and then I also want to remove the leading and trailing white spaces. So I'm just going to put re dot sub. I'm going to put remove leading and trailing white spaces. All right. Okay, so that's just going to be this up character right here, and then the left square bracket, a backslash lowercase s, and then a square bracket plus, and I'm going to use a, I think it's called a pipe, or this little special character here, then the left square bracket backslash s, and that's a lowercase s, and then the right square bracket plus $sign. Okay, so that should do it. Replace it with an empty string and then put in tweet. All right, and don't worry about these regular expressions. You can either trust me here, but I will put a link in the description below for where you can find these regular expression meanings. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and return tweet, and let's run this cell. All right, so now let's create a new cell. Here I'm going to create a new column called clean or cleaned tweets, and I'm gonna make that a capital T. All right, so let's go ahead and create that column, cleaned underscore tweets, and I'm going to set this equal to df tweets, and I'm going to apply that function that we just created, clean tweet. Okay, and then let's show the data. So I'm just going to type df dot head. So we're going to show the first 5 rows of data, and now we can see cleaned tweets here. Okay, so I am a little curious about these dots here, but we're just going to leave them for now. Let's go ahead and create a new cell. And now in this cell, I'm going to go ahead and remove any duplicate values. So first, I'm going to create a new data frame. All right, so I'm going to set df equal to pd dot data frame, and this time this data set will only contain the cleaned tweets, and I'm going to set columns equal to cleaned tweets. Okay, and so out of here I'm going to remove any duplicate rows. So just type df dot drop underscore duplicates, and I want this to be in place, so I'm going to set in place equal to true. That just means that I want to get rid of the duplicates in our data set. And then I'm going to create a variable called idx, which will be short for index, and I'm going to set this equal to list, and this list will have a range from 0 to the length of our data set, so that we can make sure that we have a sequential index for this data set. So I'm going to set df equal to df dot set underscore index to set our index, and then type pd dot index and input our idx variable. Okay, and then I'm going to there we go. All right, and then I'm going to show the data. So I'm just going to type df here. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so there we go. Now we can see our data. Okay, all right, so that's pretty clean. It's more clean than what it was before, right? So I think this looks decent. And now we have 824 rows of data because of course we got rid of some duplicate values. So let's go ahead and create a new cell. And now in this cell, I'm going to create a function to get the subjectivity, which will be a measure of how subjective or objective a tweet is. So this has a value from 0 to 1, with 0 being very objective and with 1 being very subjective. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that. I'm going to call it get subjectivity. It's going to take in a tweet, and it's going to return text blob tweet dot sentiment dot subjectivity. Okay, and then I'm going to create a function to get the polarity. So the polarity will tell us basically how positive or negative or neutral the sentiment is, right? So it's going to give us some value. It's going to be either a positive value or a negative value or a value of 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that function. Let's call it get polarity. It's going to take in some tweet, and we're going to return text blob tweet dot sentiment dot polarity. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Alrighty, let's create a new cell now. Okay, so now I'm going to create 2 new columns for our data set, and it will hold the subjectivity and polarity. Alright, so let's create a column called subjectivity. Alright, and let's set this equal to df clean tweets dot apply, and we're going to apply that function called get subjectivity. There we go. And I'm just going to highlight this, and I'm going to copy using Control C, and I'm going to paste it here using Control V. So all I did was copy it using Control C, and then I pasted it here using Control V. And I'm just going to change a few things. So I'm going to change the name of the column to be polarity, and then we're going to get the polarity. All right, so let's go ahead and, well, also I want to show the data, and then we can run this. So let's show the first 6 rows of data. All right, so let's run this. Okay, so there we go. So now we can see how subjective the tweets are and the polarity of the tweets as well. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new cell. And here I'm going to create a function to classify or label these sentiments as negative, which is anything less than 0, or positive, that's anything or any value greater than 0. I think I put this, no, that's right. So if the value is less than 0, it's negative. If the value is greater than 0, then it's positive. And if the value is exactly equal to 0, then it's neutral. Okay, and by value I mean the polarity, right? So maybe I should just put polarity here instead of value. All right, polarity. Okay, so let's create this function. I'm going to call it get sentiment. So it's going to take in some value, right? So if value is less than 0, then return negative. Else if the value is greater than 0, we're going to return positive. Else the value is neither less than 0 nor is it greater than 0, so it must be equal to 0. So here we could just return neutral. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this, and let's create a new cell. All All right, so now I'm going to create another column called sentiment. All right, so let's go ahead and create that column. I'm going to set this equal to df polarity, and I'm going to apply the function that was just created called get sentiment. All right, and then I'm going to show the data. So I'm just going to type df dot head here to show the first 5 rows of data. And there we go. So now we can see neutral, we can see positive, neutral, neutral, positive. So I don't see any negative polarity values here, and that's okay. Let's create a new cell. All right, so now we have all this information. Let's go ahead and create a scatter plot of the subjectivity and polarity. All right, and that's simple enough. All we have to do is plot dot scatter, which will allow us to create a scatter plot, and we have to do that for every single point in our data set. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a plot and give it a figure size. So I'm going to type plt.figure, and I'm going to set fig size equal to 8 by 6. And then for I in range 0 to the length of our data set, I'm going to type plt.scatter to create our scatter plot. And then on the x-axis, I'm going to put the polarity values from position I. And then on the y-axis, I'm going to put the subjectivity at position I as well. And then I'm going to give this a color. So I'm going to set the color equal to green. Alrighty. And I can go ahead and give the plot a title. So I'm going to type plt.title. And I'm going to put here scatter plot. All right. And let's go ahead and give the x-axis a label. So type plt.x label. And on the x-axis, we have the polarity. And then let's give the y-axis a label. So type plt.y label. And on the y-axis, we have the subjectivity. Okay. And then just type plt.show to show the plot. So let's go ahead and run this, and let's see what we get back. Okay, so here we go. It looks kind of like the Twitter statements are very subjective. Remember, 1 being subjective and 0 being objective, and a lot of them seem to be positive, which is anything that's greater than 0 on the x-axis. So let's go ahead and create a bar chart and take a look at the sentiment. So create a bar chart. So I'm going to type df sentiment dot value counts dot plot, and I'm going to tell it to plot a bar chart. Okay, and then I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to highlight all of this. I'm going to copy using Control C. I'm going to come back down here, and I'm going to paste those values using Control V, and I'm going to change the title to be bar plot, and the x-axis will be the sentiment, and then the y-axis will be the number of tweets. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so there we go. So we can clearly see over 400 of these tweets were positive, over 250, almost 300 tweets were neutral about Tesla's earnings, and just over 100 of these tweets were negative. So, thanks for watching the video, and a special thanks to the Patreon supporters on patreon.com. If you would like to become a supporter of this channel, again, I will leave a link to the Patreon page at patreon.com/computerscience in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.